just when I finish the build, the fusion power plant decides to catch on fire. The only other time we completely lost power in the city was when the Champ de Mars garden in front of the Eiffel Tower was being constructed.
Wait, why is there no power? No! And I was almost done with the garden. It's the dreaded death wave by blackout.
Apparently, we did not learn from the first encounter to build a fire station near our power plant. And now the first responder is coming from the airport island, and that is quite a distance they will have to travel from the airport island to the mainland. Will they make it? This is Captain Obvious, and welcome back, fellow mayors, to Fisher Enclave City. In this 31st episode, we will look back at the planning that we declared many episodes ago and see if we have remained true to the planning and how much it has impacted the overall city. Back in episode 15, I shared my blueprint before we even crossed the river.
Other major projects that should be planned include campus areas, zoos, amusement parks, stadiums, concerts, the location of your airport, and any other large-scale projects. Again, the reason why we want to plan where to place these projects is to prevent redoing your road networks. Believe it or not, road planning comes last, or at least in my eccentric out-of-the-box point of view.
For the most part, we remain true to our planning. The only minor change, or rather update, that I made was making this highway interchange to a mountain interchange, which gives us more build space. The next step on our planned blueprint is to extend the amusement park island and to add a concert. While we're at it, I will also add a stadium on the other end of the island. Adding a stadium will now be an update to our blueprint. And in between will be our residential zoning, which should be far enough from the concert and stadium noise pollution. Since unlimited soil vanilla mod is not enabled, we have to painfully grab soil from around the map, and the process will cause constant flooding and interruptions in the city. But with the disaster response unit building from the disasters DLC, all demolished buildings due to flooding will eventually reconstruct, of course not including the ploppable buildings such as the park assets that will need to be manually reconstructed. Another update to our planning is to add a train station next to the highway. Not only was this train station not planned, but having a train line altogether was never considered until the release of the train station's content creator pack. This map does not come with outside train connections, and my original plan was to just use monorails and perhaps above ground metro. This particular island is extra difficult because we have to consider raised bridges to provide ample headroom for ferries and fishing ships to pass under the bridge, while keeping the coastlines low enough to save our Sims' knees when boarding and exiting from a ferry. As a result, we have a layered island, which gives us an opportunity to utilize the new keys with staircases from the Bridges and Piers content creator pack. Oh my, look at all that flooding. No doubt our Sims are saying something like, "Thank you, Captain Obvious, for considering our knees when boarding ferries, but now we are also knee deep, if not more, with indoor flooding." Unfortunately, since I decided to add a stadium on the other side of the island, we will have to extend the island terrain, and of course, this train station will serve as the primary means of transportation to get to and exit the island. This is a painful yet necessary process, because beauty comes with a price. Another thing to keep in mind while I am extending this island is how the rivers on both sides are becoming more narrow, providing less room for sailing for our ferries and fishing ships. Probably the saddest truth about extending the island is I am grabbing soil from other parts of the rivers which are tiled away that is not even near the island. And this is all because I did not properly plan on where to get soil. I do not want to get soil from the mountain interchange because that was already finalized. And I also do not want to get soil from the empty continent with the second and third campus. If anything, I still plan to also extend that continent even further to make the rivers less narrow, or more narrow, sorry. Extending that continent will also provide more land space to zone in more residents. That is for a future episode. And on the end of the island, after the baseball stadium, I will place down a ferry pier which is also lowered. I simply copy the terrain level from the other ferry piers to ensure that the island is lowered as much as possible without flooding. I am also using the same city-wide quay with stairs from the amusement park island. In fact, this new island should have a different name, and I also just realized that I have not officially named any of the other districts or parks throughout the city. Therefore, I am open for suggestions on naming this island that has a concert and a baseball stadium. Comment down below for your island naming suggestions. Building under the bridge was particularly difficult because I had to squeeze a 2-lane road and a city quay wide with stairs while avoiding the highway bridge pillars and monorail and train track pillars. Since we were able to fit in a train station, it is only logical that we can also add in a monorail station. Providing multiple transportation options for your Sims is always a great idea. I love how this highway bridge on one side is accompanied by both a monorail and train track going across the river, while on the other side, the train track diverts to another direction after stations are added to the island. On the lower right of the screen, you may have noticed the new followers from the last event alerts in my live stream channel, and I completely forgot to change to my YouTube recording scene, which have no extra interfaces on the screen. On another note, they followed me while I was offline, which is awesome, and this is my opportunity to thank Sniff, RSDLG, Trip Candy Flip, Heedley Monorail, and Quantum Jet for your support and follow. And my gratitude also extends to everyone who has been subscribed and the new follows for the YouTube channel and other channels. I also appreciate everyone's comments and opinions, which inspire me to share content for the game that we all love. Usually, the highway would be the best way to connect a road to the island, but instead, it is the European 4-lane stone bridge which connects to the island, and this can be prone to traffic. In fact, this is the only way to enter and exit the island by road, so it should be interesting what the traffic will be like after a concert, event, or a baseball game. This will be an interesting experiment of having an island with a concert and a stadium with no highway connection. But as long as we provide multiple and ample means to travel to and exit the island, the traffic should be maintained. Since the introduction to Bridges and Piers Content Creator Pack, every elevated terrain becomes an opportunity for another build level. So instead of simply sloping the terrain downward, it is more encouraged to use the quays with stairs or any of the new quays. This is actually a 3-level island. The top level is from the train station, where there's an option to use the quays with stairs to move down to the stadium level. Then on the sides around the stadium, I will add more quays with stairs which can go down to the lower level leading to the ferry pier. When constructing parallel quays with stairs, try to pay attention to the alignment of the staircases. It is important for the staircases to be parallel and to have the same staircase length. If you are not familiar on how to add quays on dry terrain without mods, first you need to dig a trench where you intend to add a quay.
Then use the freshwater outlet from the Disasters DLC in order to fill in that trench of water, because keys require a shoreline and our trench filled with water will be classified as a shoreline. Then simply construct your key, and when you are satisfied with the results, simply fill in the trench with your leveled soil and you have your key on dry terrain. I was struggling when constructing the final key with stairs because I needed to make sure that both stairs were the same length or width, but eventually we were able to succeed. And another thing to keep in mind are the zone squares on your roads. You want to avoid tiny cracks, especially when you have a specific zone building that you want to add. For this instance, I want to add parking lots in front of the ferry pier, so I needed to make sure that the white zonable areas are not cracked. I made an error with the choice of the train station. Originally, I had the elevated island platform train station, which does not have a bypass track, and our tracks run multiple cargo trains. So I had to replace the station with the elevated dual island platform train station. The built-in bypass tracks in train stations are the best when selecting your station. So make certain that there are bypass tracks, otherwise you will have to manually create your own. I felt that the island was a little too rectangular, so I decided to trim the edge a little more to curve the key more inwards so the thickness of the island varies. Now let us start filling in the island, and I just created a new district with the self-sufficient residents, IT cluster, and organic and local produce specializations from the Green Cities DLC. I have been zoning too many mid-rise European buildings, and the city is starved of tall skyscraper type of structures. Since the train station, stadium, and ferry pier all produce noise pollution, everything zoned on this end of the island will be commercial buildings. We will also wait for the parking lot to spawn on this area while detailing the island. The baseball stadium's built-in trees are alder trees. Therefore, we will be using mostly alder trees within the island, while on the outer edge, we will plant the same colorful pink trees used in the amusement park island. I am just trying to do something new. It may or may not turn out great, but you will never know unless you try. The way I evolved when playing Cities Skylines was always trying something new each time. Like most players, I started playing cities heavily gridded, until slowly yet surely, I started experimenting with curves, until I was able to build an entire city with minimal grids. I also played heavily with roundabouts until I challenged myself to play with absolutely no roundabouts, just like in my Season 1 Let's Play series. And little by little, I keep adding stipulations like no tunnels, no traffic manager, and so on, and I learned something new each time. The most important lesson that I learned was grid and roundabouts does not make the most efficient city, and that most cases, roundabouts in City Skylines creates more traffic if not used properly. To minimize traffic at our bridge, I am using a series of strategically placed one-way roads to reduce the volume of vehicles crossing the interchanges. For example, if there were no one-way roads and vehicles from both sides of the bridges wanted to drive to the stadium, they will most likely take these two routes. And this will cause traffic hiccups, especially for vehicles from the North Bridge wanting to continue to drive straight down to cross the South Bridge. And we are only looking at entering and going to the west side of the island. Exiting the island poses the same predicament because vehicles from the stadium that wish to drive north will cause traffic crossing these two intersections. But by upgrading select roads to one-way roads, vehicles from the south will now have just one option to cross to the left to enter the island by taking this road, and they may also take a right turn to use this route. This does not remove traffic completely but reduces their options while providing a more tempting and closer route to take. Exiting the island will also have reduced options, which ideally reduces the amount of crossing into interchanges. However, we have yet to activate the train and monorail stations, which will also reduce the overall tourist and citizen vehicles entering and exiting the island. But the absolute best way to reduce traffic is to provide multiple means to enter and exit a district by road and by public transportation. We have our roads set up, we have transportation in place, we have also continued to use the keys for a layered island, and now it is time to add in residents to increase our city's population. I have also used mostly European high-density zoning, but from now on, we will be using the self-sufficient residential specialization. While zoning these areas, I also want to make sure that there are no tall buildings to obstruct the view of the London Eye and the Eiffel Tower to see each other clearly from across the river. These blocks are too close to each other to add keys, so I decided to make these sloped blocks as parks instead. It may be a little awkward for players to have sloped parks, but your options to fill in slopes are to either plant trees and add rocks, or you may also add sloped parks. I choose to use both. I now have a sloped park with built-in trees, and I am also adding in more trees to make the park look bigger. If you are not aware, assets like parks with trees and paths and cemeteries can conform to slopes, which means they do not cause cracks on the edges of the asset when they are not on a flat terrain. I have just added at least 2 crematoriums to the island. It is important to remember to provide services to the island, especially death care, otherwise delays on picking up the dead may cause a death wave. Since this island is extremely compact, I use crematoriums, and for the other services such as the fire and police departments, I will rely on the fire and police helicopters to service the island. And this is the final inland quay that I am constructing for this island. It takes a lot of patience to create these vanilla inland quays, but in the long run, it is all worth it. Other services that we cannot neglect are the child and elder care building. These structures were part of the free Sunset DLC update, which is also the solution to death waves. There is a controversial debate on the use of the elder care building that it does not necessarily solve death waves, it just delays them. But perhaps the delays are necessary to provide ample time for the death care facilities to pick up the previous death wave and incinerate the corpses. Personally, I have used the child and elder care buildings since the structures were introduced, and I have not experienced any major death waves since. The last piece of the puzzle is to add the concert on the east end of the island. But unfortunately, concerts are not available on console, but they are still considered as vanilla assets. In every new city that I build, I try to use as many vanilla assets as possible, which includes the use of blimps and helicopters. Speaking of which, I just added a blimp stop right next to the trolley bus depot. Our in-island public transportation are the trolley buses, while the blimp stop will be for a future use. I was also considering of adding a casino in the island, but I think we are cramming way too many things into the island and forcing it to extend more than necessary. In fact, I might have overdone the expanding of the island, yet everything was necessary to ensure a decent traffic flow. If the island was any smaller, then I will definitely have traffic issues. And of course, we can connect the island together by pedestrian path so passengers may also enter and exit the island by monorail. This walking path is just as important as the bridge that connects the island to the city. Ideally, I'd only want service vehicles to use the bridges, while the Sims will use the public transportation available.
I want to do a stress test on this stone bridge. First, we will pause the game, then I will delete the concert and stadium, and after which I will immediately reconstruct them, which would reset their event date. Since they were plopped down at the same time, they now have the same event date, which is on January 8, 2166. This also means that everyone attending the concert and baseball game would all exit at the same time. Take note that our current traffic flow is at 91% during off-season. While waiting for the event dates, I will add our trolley bus lines with roads and add a bypass track to our cargo station. I am simply thinking ahead to avoid any train traffic. So the first test is to see how well the bridge can handle traffic after a simultaneous concert and baseball event, without activating the island's public transportation. Then the second test is to see the effects on the island with public transportation active, and let us see how well the bridge will hold out. While we are waiting for the January 8 events to start, I am going to go ahead and spruce up this bridge. So instead of just being connected with two pedestrian paths, let us add a tiny park island in between. And I want to maintain the railing on the pedestrian bridges so it will remain elevated while we raise the terrain that we may add in more park assets. Okay, let's check how many visitors we are getting in the stadium and concert. We have a decent number of visitors in our stadium while our concert is completely empty. It is quite possible that we just literally washed away all our concert visitors due to the flood. Oops, my bad. Alright, let's fast forward to when the baseball game ends and let us observe the traffic. And away they go. Now starts the Congo line to the bridge, and you can already see that the long line starts from the stadium to the stone bridge. And this is just half the traffic because the concert was basically cancelled. So this experiment failed. We need to wait for the next event, so for the meantime, I will improve that tiny park island. After a while, I just realized that we were waiting for nothing because the event dates no longer match. So this means I have to delete and reconstruct them again to get this experiment right.
Let's fast forward and watch the wave of smiley faces, which indicates the end of an event. On the left side, we have sad faces, so the concert was not a hit. But the smiley faces from the stadium means we won our first game. Now let us observe the cars flank the stone bridge. There wasn't too many visitors from the concert, which was disappointing, but after two events, our traffic flow dropped to 88%. But this is without island public transportation. And the intersection at our stone bridge is crying right now. Okay, now this time, we will activate the trolley buses by adding stops, and I will add stops at our monorail station and train station. You know what? I just realized that the reason why there were less vehicles from the concert after the event was maybe half of them took the monorail station across the river to the amusement park island, which makes complete sense.
Okay guys, this is the exciting part because both events are about to end, but first, let's see how many visitors we have for both the concert and the stadium. So the stadium, the concert has 260 of 300 visitors, nearly a full house, and the stadium has 701 of 750. So these two events should be successful. Now let's wait. I think the event should end soon. I'll times 3 speed. It's only, I think, the following day. when it ends. And release the smileys. Oh, the concert didn't do well, I think. But let's check out the people. Oh, you gotta love that. People are actually using the stairs, using the key stairs going up. And where are they going? They're going to the trolley bus stop, while the others are taking the train. And let's go check out the concert. Most people are deciding to go across the bridge in order to take the train over here, which is all good. Some of them are taking this trolley bus stop in order to go to these stations. And let's check the... Oh, look at that. It is completely clear. Nobody is deciding to drive out of the island. Everyone's taking the trains, which is the best decision, or the wisest thing to do. But let's see, we have a lot of people waiting, which is kind of expected. I mean, you can imagine there were like 700 people there. Let's see how many people are actually waiting. 321. But yeah, so there are more people coming out, but I think we can handle this eventually. So I am not too worried about this, as long as, yeah, it's never gonna reach 1,000, of course, because that is not the capacity of the stadium. And there we have it. Oh, the other thing is, I also created a bus loop over here. So this is for the ferries. There's not a lot of people taking this, which is completely fine. The ferries are more of a visual thing, because I wanted to, you know, have ships passing along the rivers. But overall, our experiment worked. We have no traffic after 2 events. Everything is managed. We kind of directed the passengers to go to, the visitors to go to take the trains instead. So this is why it is necessary to plan out your city. Ladies and gentlemen, and that is the value of planning. If you do not plan ahead, like providing multiple transportation options, slowly yet surely your traffic flow will start to deteriorate, while planning for each expansion would help maintain your current traffic flow. If you are new to the channel and you enjoyed the video and learned something, please consider subscribing. Also, comment down below on your general thoughts of the build and overall planning. This is Captain Obvious, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video. So the fire truck was late, but it wasn't his fault. Fortunately, we have fire helicopters, but there really should be a fire station right next to the power plant. And the better romance than Twilight Cities Skylines version is between a power plant and a fire station.